Okay, let's unpack this. We've been closely watching the situation in Nepal, haven't we?
We certainly have.
Just last week, we were talking about those significant protests and, the temporary social media ban.
Which has now been lifted, thankfully.
Exactly. And what's unfolding now is, well, it's pretty fascinating. So today, we're really looking into Nepal's rebirth in 2025. Is it safe to visit? New PM Sushila Karki leads after protests. And our main source for this is a really insightful piece from David Ways. He's a veteran Nepal guidebook author. He gives us 72 hours later perspective on those dramatic events.
Which is incredibly valuable, that kind of immediate follow-up.
Right. So our mission today is basically to pull out the key information about Nepal's stability now, the new leadership, and what it all means if you're, thinking about visiting.
And what's really striking here is, well, it's the sheer speed, the incredible pace at which Nepal seems to have moved towards stabilization.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. Transitioning from those widespread protests just days ago to appointing an interim government, it happened so fast.
Can you just quickly frame that timeline again? It was quite compressed.
Sure. So the social media ban, that hit on September 8th. Then the nationwide protest really took off. And now, as of September 12th, boom, a new interim prime minister taking charge.
Just like that.
In a matter of days, really. It shows a certain resilience, I think.
Okay, so that leads us straight to the big question, the one probably on many listeners' minds. Is Nepal actually ready for visitors now?
The million-dollar question, right?
Exactly. And David Ways, with his decades on the ground there, he doesn't really hesitate. His article states it pretty clearly. Nepal is back in business for tourists. Yes, Nepal moves that quickly.
That's quite a confident statement, given what happened.
It is. And politically, things move just as fast. The president dissolved parliament, PM Oli resigned, and then Sushila Karki, the former chief justice, she was appointed interim PM. She'll be there until the general elections in March 2026. But here's where it gets really interesting from a practical standpoint. David's analysis shows how quickly things on the ground just snapped back to normal.
Like what specifically?
Well, the army's back in the camps, the streets are reportedly calm, and crucially, the entire tourism sector is fully operational again.
That does sound almost seamless.
It does. But we also need to remember the context here, the tragic side of this.
Absolutely. While that return to normalcy is encouraging for visitors, it's vital we don't just gloss over the events that led to this change.
Right.
There are still ongoing investigations, aren't there? Into the protester deaths. The numbers reported kept tragically rising, 19, then 35, eventually over 50.
Yeah, and David mentioned concerns about evidence being destroyed, conspiracy theories. It sounds messy.
It is messy. And this is really important background for understanding the pressure on the new leadership. The Gen Z protesters were central to this, and now they have high expectations. They want Sushila Karki to guarantee zero corruption.
So that raises a big question, right? What are the immediate challenges for her? What's expected?
Well, it seems the pressure is immense. There's this strong desire, especially from the younger generation, for real change, for accountability. Ensuring no corruption, as they demanded, is a huge task.
Given that anti-corruption was such a driving force and the demands from Gen Z, what do you think her first move needs to be to build that trust?
Based on David's analysis and her background, it seems likely she'll need to prioritize two things immediately. First, a really transparent, impartial investigation into the protest violence, addressing those worries about destroyed evidence head-on.
Okay, that makes sense.
And second, she needs to signal a very clear break from the past, from the kind of corrupt practices that really fueled all this anger. Her own history suggests she's capable, but it's still a monumental challenge.
Absolutely. And David Ways, in his article, he then pivots very effectively from that, essential background to the practical stuff a traveler needs to know.
Right, the on-the-ground reality now.
Exactly. Let's start with flights. Kathmandu International Airport, fully operational.
Good news.
Yeah, all domestic and international flights, Nepal Airlines, Buddha Air, the big international carriers, they're all running smoothly. David does give an important tip, though. Book early. Especially if you're aiming for that peak trekking season starting in October.
Always good advice for Nepal in autumn.
Then, getting around once you're in Nepal, that seems back to normal, too.
Buses and things.
Yep, long-distance buses to Pokhara, Chitwan, Lukla, all those key places they're operating normally. Tourist buses, microbuses, even those nicer sofa buses are available. And he specifically says, no protests affecting transport now.
Okay, so getting around isn't an issue.
Seems not. And daily essentials. Money. Banks like Nabil Bank, Himalayan Bank, all open in Kathmandu and Pokhara. ATMs are working, dispensing cash.
Which is crucial.
Definitely. Currency exchange is straightforward, either at the airport or in Thamel, and he reminds everyone Nepal is a cash is king country, so having some physical cash is still important.
Good practical tip.
Finally, the attractions themselves. Heritage sites, temples, national parks for trekking, all open, all accessible.
So the core reasons people go are unaffected.
Exactly. Whether it's culture, wildlife, or the mountains. And here's an interesting observation David makes. He suggests this post-protest period might actually be a better time to visit in some ways.
How so?
He thinks there might be fewer crowds and more authentic interactions with locals.
So turning a potentially negative situation into a potentially more intimate travel experience?
Yeah, it sort of reframes it, doesn't it? An opportunity for maybe a deeper connection.
That's a really insightful point. It suggests that these moments of transition, while difficult for the country, can sometimes offer visitors a different, maybe more genuine glimpse into the culture.
It also highlights the gap that can exist between international media coverage and what's actually happening on the ground, especially when things change so fast.
Oh, definitely.
David Ways was quite critical of some of the reporting last week, wasn't he?
He was. He described a lot of it as, I think the phrase was, not worth it. He felt it was leaning towards clickbait headlines and doomsday reporting.
A bit lackluster and YouTube-like, I think he said.
Right. He felt it was quite bizarre and disjointed. It didn't really reflect the reality he was seeing.
It underlines the importance of getting information from people actually there.
Precisely. And it's also crucial to be clear about what really caused the protests and the violence. There's this persistent idea that the social media ban was the sole trigger.
Which David says isn't quite right.
No. He clarifies that while the ban definitely added fuel to the fire, adding to the ire on anti-corruption reform, the protests themselves were planned well before that ban was even announced.
So the ban was an accelerant, maybe, but not the root cause?
Exactly. If you look at the bigger picture, he argues the real catalyst for the violence wasn't the initial student protests, but the moment they were fired upon with live ammunition. The deaths of young students ignited this widespread rage.
Against corruption that had been building up for a long time.
For over a decade, he says. It created this perfect storm that ultimately brought down the government. But the positive side now, he emphasizes, is that the new PM represents more an inspiration than anxiety.
Anxiety mainly felt by those linked to the old regime, perhaps.
Or those with financial ties, yes. But for the broader population, especially the youth, it seems to be a moment of hope.
That distinction is so key, separating the narrative from the actual drivers. Okay, let's talk more about the source of inspiration. Nepal's new interim Prime Minister, Sushila Karki.
A really fascinating figure.
First off, David quickly dismisses that brief social media buzz about the king making a comeback.
Right. Clarifies the king has no actual power in Nepal today.
The real story was Karki's appointment. Friday night, September 12th, appointed by the president, a former Chief Justice stepping into this role. But the moment that really captures the public feeling, the connection, happened at her swearing-in ceremony.
Tell us about that.
Well, while the usual dignitaries got formal handshakes and congratulations, when the younger people, the Gen Z protesters, came forward, apparently she gave many of them hugs, hand touches, genuine smiles.
Wow, that's quite different from typical political protocol.
It really is. And David Ways recounts turning to someone right then and saying, Nepal's got a new Amma.
A mother.
Exactly, a mother figure. He felt it represented, maybe for the first time in decades, someone openly caring for the Nepali people.
That single word, alama, says so much, doesn't it? It really captures why she embodies this hope for a fairer future.
It really does.
And her appointment itself is historic for Nepal's anti-corruption fight. Especially since, as David points out, she topped those Gen Z Discord polls ahead of other popular names.
So she had grassroots support from the youth who drove the protests.
Clearly. At 73, she's seen as this figure of integrity, known for her strong anti-corruption stance throughout her career.
Tell us a bit more about that career, her background.
Well, she was born back in 1952 in Bharatnagar during the Panchayat era. That was when the king held absolute power and political parties were banned.
A very different Nepal.
Indeed. She studied law at Triphuvan University in the 70s after getting degrees in arts and political science in India. Right from her early career, she focused on human rights, which meant challenging that authoritarian regime. That's where her anti-corruption drive really took root.
And she faced consequences for that, didn't she?
She did. During the pro-democracy movements in the 1990s, she was actually imprisoned for several months in Biratnagar jail. Her crime: activism against corruption and the misuse of political power.
That must have been formative.
David describes it as a harrowing experience that profoundly shaped her commitment to judicial reform. After she was released, she became a prominent Supreme Court advocate, known for championing women's rights and pushing for accountability.
And she even wrote about her time in jail.
Yes, apparently it inspired her writing. Her first novel, Nyaya, and then another, Kara, explore prison life and offer social commentary based on her experiences in Biratnagar.
Her personal life is also quite connected to Nepal's political journey.
It is. She's married to Durga Prasad Subedi. He's a well-known figure in the Nepali Congress Party, a major Democratic party, and a former parliamentarian. He was actually involved in that famous 1973 plane hijacking.
The one intended to fund the pro-democracy movement.
It's the one. A very controversial event, but part of that era's struggle.
And then she rose to become Chief Justice.
Yes, Nepal's first female Chief Justice, serving from 2016 to 2018. During her time, she made some really bold rulings, pushing back against political interference, which solidified her image as an anti-corruption fighter.
So she has a proven track record,
Right.
but now she faces new challenges, right? Potential lawsuits.
That's right. There's talk of potential legal challenges from former leaders Oli, the Hal Doba, who were dominant for the past decade. But she's publicly vowed to ensure impartial investigations into the protest violence.
It's quite a story. As David Ways put it, her journey shows ethics triumph over power.
A powerful sentiment indeed.
So, connecting this back to potential visitors, Karki's leadership, this sense of renewed hope, combined with the stability David describes, it paints a picture of a unique moment for tourism, doesn't it?
It really does. David frames it as a golden opportunity.
He argues that the recent turmoil, paradoxically, highlights Nepal's underlying vibrancy. You have Gen Z pushing against corruption, and now leadership that seems aligned with that desire for a fairer future.
So, for someone thinking of going,
He essentially says visiting now is like getting a golden ticket, a chance for perhaps less crowded trails, more genuine hospitality, and hearing these incredible stories of resilience firsthand. And he emphasizes everything is open, even smaller spots like Gupteshwar Mahadev Cave in Pokhara, and of course the big mountain treks like the Three High Passes. It all seems ready to go.
it's remarkable how quickly that open for business message came through. And it's worth stressing, Nepal's history regarding tourist safety during political change.
David mentioned this too, right?
Yes, he points out that even during past periods of upheaval, some lasting months, he personally experienced never once an issue for tourists. Safety for visitors has generally been maintained.
That's reassuring.
He even recalls seeing a sign years ago in Thamel, the main tourist hub, that read, "Tourists are honored guests." Apparently, it disappeared over the last decade or so.
That's a shame.
But he expresses hope that with this new, more ethical leadership, the spirit behind that sign might return. And certainly that inherent welcoming nature of Nepali people is still there. It suggests visiting now isn't just about sightseeing, it's about witnessing a country trying to forge a better path.
What an inspiring way to look at it. So, thinking about all this, what stands out to you, our listener? Maybe consider how seeing a nation grapple with huge challenges, embrace ethical leadership, and find a renewed sense of purpose. How that could make for a travel experience that's much richer than just ticking off landmarks.
It's about witnessing history, perhaps.
Being part of a hopeful chapter.
And maybe a final thought to ponder. Looking ahead to those general elections in March 2026, if they happen under this interim leadership that's genuinely focused on anti-corruption, how might that not just stabilize Nepal's politics, but actually change its image on the world stage?
Redefine it, perhaps.
Exactly. Redefine it as a destination where that human connection, that ethical approach to governance really shines through. It could be quite powerful.
Definitely something to think about. Now, if you are planning a trip or just want to keep up with the situation, we really recommend following David Ways on X. He provides real-time updates, which could be useful for any minor lingering disruptions.
And his website has that bandits guide too.
Right, his guide for navigating strikes or bandans, just in case they were ever to flare up again, though things seem calm now. But most importantly, check out the Longest Way Home Nepal travel website and his incredibly detailed guidebooks.
They really are invaluable resources.
Absolutely. For deep travel planning and just fantastic insights into Nepal, you can't do much better.